Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Alphabetical Fugazi, the only podcast that devotes an episode each to discussing every song in the Fugazi catalog, from Fuga A to Fuga Z. I'm your host, Ian James Wright. Joining me today to discuss Bad Mouth from Fugazi's first self-titled 7-song EP, released in 1988, is a dancer and choreographer and the newest member of the great DC band Beauty Pill. Welcome to the show, Erin Nelson.
Thank you for having me, Ian.
I wanted to ask you, first of all, about joining Beauty Pill. You and Chad Clark appeared recently on the Hometown Sounds podcast and told the story of how you came to join the band. But for listeners who haven't listened to that, would you care to briefly recap how that happened?
Chad and I have known each other for about 15 years now. We met through my husband, Ryan, who is a former member of Beauty Pill. Funny little factoid. And Chad and I we were acquaintances, and then we got to know each other a little bit better. And we've always had a mutual respect for each other and each other's art. As a dancer and choreographer, he was always a huge supporter of me. And he's a huge supporter of the DC theater scene and art scene in general. He contacted me about playing a show with him. He was set up to do a show solo, just by himself, I guess, maybe acoustic guitar. And he decided he didn't want to go that route and he wanted to invite a vocalist in. So he asked me to join him for that set. And he had never really heard me sing before. So that was new information for him. And we practiced 2 or 3 times the week before the show and got up there, and it was a hit, I think. We worked together really well. And so we stayed in contact, and he asked me to continue to work with him and the band.
That's a lot of fun. A lot of musicians, were teenagers the first time they were in a band, but this is your first time being in a band. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How are you finding your first experience with that, as an adult?
Not that odd, actually. I've been playing music my whole life. I grew up in a very musical family. My dad played guitar and bass, and so somewhere around junior high school, I picked up the bass guitar and sort of self-taught a little bit. Didn't get too far with that, but I was in high school band and all that, and I always sort of sang pretty casually. But dance was always my focus as an adolescent, and so at that point, I was pretty hyper focused on becoming a professional dancer. That was like you had to work so intensely to go that road and to choose that career path. So nothing was really going to get in my way of doing that. So yeah, I just never considered going into music in a more intensive professional level.
It's nice. I always love the feeling of being in a band because there's this self-evident mutual respect happening, because we wouldn't be investing all this time and effort with each other if we didn't respect each other's musicianship. So just by virtue of being in that band, it's sort of feels nice. You feel valued. I like that.
Yeah. And as a performer already, just the idea of being on stage and in front of people, I feel like I've already gotten over that hurdle. And Chad, he likes to joke about the fact that when he asked me to play this one-off show at Rhizome, which is a space in DC, about a year ago, he asked me, and I kind of just paused and was like, "Yeah, screw it, let's do it. Why not?" Like I felt like I didn't have any preconceived ideas of what I should sound like or how to present myself as a singer. And I had kind of made up my mind at that point in life to just not say no to things. So yeah, the door opened and I just walked through.
That's that seems like it has relevance to the song we'll be discussing today for sure.
Yeah, it does.
And then before we get into that though, I wanted to mention, speaking of your dancing and choreography, you brought those skills to bear in a new music video. Chad shared this video with me for Pardon Our Dust. Basically, it sort of stars you. You're the lead singer on that track, and you're dancing in the video. It's pretty cool. It reminds me a little bit of Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush. Like, I can't think of another one quite like that. I hope you take that as a compliment. Wuthering Heights is a little bit of a goofy video, but it's Kate Bush, like she's doing her stuff, dancing in front of the camera as her track is playing. So it just brought that to mind.
Totally know that video. Yeah, I do. I take that as a huge compliment, actually. Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, it was nice to be able to bring that side of things to the music. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. And I guess you worked with Meredith Bragg making the video. A great musician himself, but I guess he's focusing on directing these days.
Yeah, Meredith was amazing. I think we had a really great connection right off the bat. So it was just a really, really comfortable vibe working with him. His cinematography is gorgeous. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to people being able to see that video. Yeah,
same here. Let's talk a little bit about Fugazi. Can you tell me a little bit about your history with the band, your relationship with them as a fan and a friend?
Totally. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, or I should say on the outskirts of Richmond, and came to Fugazi pretty, I don't know, I junior high, 8th grade. Quickly became a fan. I may have actually discovered Minor Threat before Fugazi. Somebody probably slipped me a cassette tape, but it was all around the same time of just discovering new music. And I used to get Rolling Stone and Spin magazine in the mail and go straight to the back and look at the college charts and just sort of see what everybody was listening to. As a 13-year-old living in the suburbs, far suburbs, practically the country outside of Richmond. That's just how I found my way with music. So yeah, Fugazi was major in my life as a kid. Saw them a few times in Richmond. Saw them at Schaefer Court at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. I think that was 96. So that was like tail end of high school for me. And then saw them again in college. They've always been huge inspiration.
I think I saw them at VCU also, but at a later date, probably like post 2000. I remember it being one of the coldest. It was outdoors, and it was one of the coldest shows. Like their fingers were like cramping up from the cold. One song in particular, they started and they messed up, and they had to start again because it was like their fingers couldn't move.
Was that at University of Richmond?
It might have been.
Maybe.
It might have been.
I think I remember that show happening, and I wasn't there, but I remember that. Yeah. Yeah,
a little chilly, but a good show for sure.
Yeah, always a good show.
And then later on, I guess you got to know Ian MacKaye a little bit personally, right?
I did. My husband and I, Ryan, we weren't married at the time. We left DC and moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan for a stint. And when we were in Kalamazoo for 3-4 years, I believe, and towards the tail end of our time there, we were in a pretty major car accident, which did a lot of damage to my arm. And as a dancer, and at the time I was also training I was an apprentice to be a hairdresser. So, and I cut hair with my right hand. It was my right arm that I compound fractured. And I was dancing. I was adjunct professor at university there in Kalamazoo, and all of a sudden everything came to a screeching halt. Like I was not able to do anything at all.
Wow.
And at the time, so it was around that time we started looking to move back to DC. We were missing family and friends and back here. And Ryan had previously worked at Discord, and he was offered a job back at Discord. Everything was just sort of lining up. And so we moved back. We did not have an immediate place to live. And so Ian very graciously offered us a room at the Discord house. So we moved back from Kalamazoo and into the Discord house. And I got to know Ian pretty well starting around that time. We had met a couple of times before pretty casually. But living in that house and seeing him and sitting around a table with tea almost every day was pretty mind-blowing. Yeah, he managed to, and this is probably where I'm starting to drift into my connection with the specific song we're talking about.
Let's jump into it. I like to give my guests the first word on it. So yeah, bad mouth. It was around this time we moved into the house, and I admittedly had just sort of spiraled into depression. I wasn't very mobile. I was in physical therapy for my arm every day. I wasn't dancing. I was in a rut, in a total funk. And Ian very quickly identified that and was able to gradually pull me out of that. I think he saw, I was depressed. I was going through a lot, but he also was able to sort of sift through some of my bullshit probably and be like, you don't have to be this way, get out of the house, go for a walk, get some fresh air, make a new adventure for yourself every day. And sort of forcing me to rediscover DC. I mean, I had lived here prior, but it was really his hand on my back, literally and figuratively, just sort of encouraging me out of the house and to finally pull myself out of this darkness that I had fallen into. And so the song Bad Mouth, which is pretty straightforward song, right? It's sort of classic, classic Ian lyrics, very anthemic, I think, rock song. And every time I hear it now, I get kind of nostalgic for like those, tea time with Ian. And the words really resonate now in a different way than they had before, probably, definitely because of my personal connection to him, and the advice that became so meaningful and life-changing. Absolutely. Like you can just picture him actually literally saying to you, right, the first lines, you can't be what you were, so you better start being just what you are.
Absolutely
applies to your situation.
And it applies, I think it applies to so many different situations. That's something that's so incredible about many Fugazi songs, but this one specifically, like this can be applied to so many individuals in different places in their life. I mean, even now, we were just talking about this earlier, but I'm a mom to 4-year-old twins. And that was also obviously pretty life-changing to experience. And hearing that song now, like literally, you can't be what you were once you become a parent. Right. I mean, you can strive, right? You can strive to hold on to to what you were and what you used to do, and pick back up with the same hobbies. And but you're forging a new path as a parent, with new tiny people in your life. There's so much more to consider than when it was just you on your own, thinking for yourself. And man, that can't be what you were.
It's very true that it's so universally applicable. That makes me think of, so there's this philosopher Heraclitus. I think that's how you pronounce that. You familiar with that guy?
I'm not.
So he's this like pre-Socratic philosopher, so like one of the oldest philosophers on record. And if you're like a philosophy dilettante like I am, like the only thing you would know about him is that his big thing was he emphasized that change is just the most basic universal constant there is. His famous saying was, "No man ever steps in the same river twice," because the river is always changing. There's new water in it every time. And when you think about it, it's not only because the river is different, but because the man has changed. So everything changes. If it's not as fast as a river, it's just on a longer time scale. So that comes to mind when I listen to this song. And it is like, obviously it's applicable if you've had some sort of life-changing, disabling injury, if you've become a parent, but basically anybody could apply this to their life, because it's true. There's this constant change happening, and the whole thing, you can't be what you were. I think it's so interesting. Like, it sounds like a song that you would write maybe if you were an older artist, sort of doing a retrospective look at your life. But Ian, I guess he was like mid-20s when he wrote this.
Right.
So that's
pretty interesting. But he'd been at it for a while,
right? Right.
I mean, he's been doing his thing since he was 17, 18 years old. Like, so, I mean, not that mid-20s is old, but it still gives him a lot of depth. It's like an old soul, I think.
Definitely. And then
guy.
It's and so he uses that, like that concept that, you can't be what you were in the past. You better just get started with what you want to do with the rest of your life.
That's right. But
that's bookended with, right, he's like, right after that, the lyrics, the time is now, it's running out.
Yes.
So to like a bit of a memento mori to emphasize our mortality, right? There's two reasons why you should get started with stuff, because the past is gone, but the future is not forever. So it's a lot of density to pack into the few lyrics here. That knowledge of death. That's like it's the great curse and the great blessing of humankind at the same time, right? That knowledge that we are inevitably going to die. Our beloved pets don't know that, and they're content with their lives. But for us, it can introduce anxiety, but it can also make the sweet moment sweeter by just sort of meditating on the fact that nothing can last. So there's an interesting balance there.
Definitely. It's all very Buddhist, right? Like, and really just focusing on just be in the moment, and wake up and look around, and this is who you are right here, right now. This morning when you wake up, get up and do it. Do your thing, Yeah.
And it's, speaking of being a parent, it's so, I mean, I remember pretty vividly, I think, when I first learned about death. And like, I remember as a little kid being really upset and like asking my parents, so you're going to die, and like crying and stuff. And they're like, no, but not for a very long time. And just how stressful that was. And, that makes me think of, when I have to have that talk with my little girl, how rough that's going to be, right?
Yeah. We haven't done that yet with our kids.
Yeah.
It's funny. I keep waiting. It's with a lot of things I'm trying to do is just let them, not forcing it onto them, but letting them come to us with the whys and the hows, and when they become curious, will explain it. And that's one that has not come up yet. I mean, the word dying or death has certainly crossed through their vocabulary, but they haven't asked what that means yet. It's yeah, I'm not prepared for it either.
Oh, it's extremely heavy.
I don't know what's going to come. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth when they finally ask me. I hope I say the right thing. I don't know.
I'd like to, just to bring in a little intertextuality, I'd like to share with our listeners a short poem by Kay Ryan. It's called Niagara River, which I think of, both for the qualities of this song, talking about change and talking about the sort of the inevitability of death. So here it is, Niagara River. As though the river were a floor, we position our table and chairs upon it, eat, and have conversation. As it moves along, we notice, as calmly as though dining room paintings were being replaced, the changing scenes along the shore. We do know this is the Niagara River, but it is hard to remember what that means. Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's the author again?
That's Kay Ryan. She the one-time poet laureate of the United States and Pulitzer Prize winner, I think. A good one to check out if you're interested in reading some poetry.
That's beautiful. Can I ask you what the line is again about the dining room pictures being changed?
Yeah, as the river, as it moves along, we notice, as calmly as though dining room paintings were being replaced, the changing scenes along the shore. And that
is such fantastic imagery. That's really...
I'm sure, that's another thing that we relate to afresh as parents. It's all of a sudden your kids are older than they were before. It's like, wow, that part of their lives is suddenly over. You hardly noticed the change happening, but boom, it happened.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I also wanted to talk about, also in the lyrics, we haven't gotten to, there's no movement in a bad mouth, it betrays a bad mind. Did you have a take on that part?
You know what? I've been thinking about that for the past day. What's your thought on that?
So I was thinking, because, he follows it up with, you're always talking shit now, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I was thinking, it contrasts with what he was saying before, right? So just start living your life actively, keeping in mind constant change, keeping in mind that time is running out. There are people, though, who aren't doing that, and they're just spending their time shit-talking people. And that's like, I think that's the titular bad mouth. People who are just spending their time on negativity like that. And for people like that, there's no movement. They're like stagnating. They're not creating. They're just sitting there idly and taking pot shots at people. That's what I think.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's exactly it.
Yeah, it's a sort of powerful kick in the pants to people who, to, I guess, anybody. Like, everybody has something to say, something to contribute. So, yeah, this is one of those songs that can get you moving, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. This song is definitely like a classic sing-along chant at the show. Everybody singing the song.
Yeah, like, speaking of getting you moving, it's so, it's musically, it's incredibly simple in a lot of ways, but it's so fun and joyful. Like, they start playing this, and it's a song that gets the entire room jumping up and down. There's like a lot of live versions that you can check out on YouTube, and the whole it's that whole it's that classic. It reminds me of the 90s concerts, people just jumping up and down to the rhythm. And of course, Guy during this song is not playing guitar, so he's usually doing some kind of crazy, catchy dance.
Right.
It really gets you in the spirit.
His sway, like the Ian and Guy both had that sway going on.
Yeah.
Speaking of the live shows, are you familiar with the Fugazi live series? Do you know that?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. That just, when you were saying you could check out the shows on YouTube, the first thing I thought was, I mean, obviously you can go to YouTube to see the visuals, but I love the fact that you can go, they have all these shows listed out for listeners that don't know. It's on the Discord website. And there's a link to something called the Fugazi Live series. And they have been gathering archival tapes of every, they're aiming for all, I believe, 800 Fugazi shows that ever happened and have them all cataloged online, and you can download them. They ask for a donation, to download a show, which is fair.
Yeah. $5
but it's
each.
amazing how you can go there and check out all these different versions of Badmouth.
It was, I guess it was a very commonly played song, especially in their early days. It seems like in their later shows they didn't play it as much, from what I can tell. But just on the strength of how often they played it early on, it's up there. It's not. I think I said it's not quite in the top 20 songs. I did a little bit of data analysis on the live series. So I have
nice.
this sort of top 20 songs chart. I'll be as this podcast goes along, I'll be highlighting some of the some of the top contenders there.
That's brilliant. Yeah. I'd be interested in seeing that or hearing what those are. Yeah.
Also, speaking of the live versions, on the recorded version from, probably most of us know it from the 13 songs compilation, but it was originally on the on this EP. It's just sort of Ian doing the vocal, but then I guess sort of so Guy would have a little more to do live. If you look at or listen to the live versions, Guy is right in there too, just sort of doing these intertwining lyrics that are kind of fun, right? Ian's you can't be what you were, and Guy's you got another thing coming.
Right.
It adds it just adds that energy to it. I like that when a band has a sort of canonical recorded version, but then the live version adds something to it that takes it just a little bit of a different direction.
They had such amazing chemistry on stage,
Absolutely.
It was just a band I hope this doesn't sound shitty, but I do feel sorry for people that did not get a chance to experience Fugazi live. It was just an outstanding, unforgettable moment.
I agree. So, any final thoughts on the song? Because if you have an overall comment, we can go straight to the segment of the show called Ratings. Do you like me? Do you like me? Do you like me? In which I ask you, Erin, if you could rank this song from 1 star to 5 stars purely within the context of the Fugazi catalog, right? 1 star would be your least favorite Fugazi song, 5 stars your most favorite. Could you give this a star rating?
I would probably give this a 4.
Big rating.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a pretty great song. I really do. I do think it's sort of quintessential Fugazi, and Fugazi went through eras, right? Their sound changed. There was this interesting arc that they did, and I think this is just so classic early Fugazi. 4 stars.
I think I'm gonna go 4.5. I think it's just.
I don't know, halves were allowed, but yeah, 4. I'm gonna stick with my 4. All right.
Okay, you're allowed to revise if you want. It's not quite the very top tier, but I really do love it. Given how, I don't know, I think just the strength of how it comes across as a live song. It's got this great energy to it. It is a little bit simple, as I say, but is simple absolutely does the job sometimes, and sometimes it's exactly what you need. I really like this one. It's and I like the tension between this, how it sounds like one of their more fun songs, but the lyrics are actually quite serious and meaningful, and to be pondered and meditated upon, and
Absolutely.
and rewarding if you do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Okay, great. Sounds like we like this one. Big ratings.
Yeah.
So great. Let's do a little bit of plugs then to round out the show. So
Cool.
if you'd like to say where listeners can reach you online if you care to be found, or do you have anything, events coming up, records to plug, whatever?
Let's see. We talked about the video. So that if you are following Beauty Pill on Twitter, I'm also on Twitter, Erin M. Nelson. You can find me on Instagram as well, Erin M. Nelson. Beauty Pill is also on Instagram. Let's see. I have a theater company that I started here in DC as well, Taffety Punk Theater Company. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think that's it for my plugs for now.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on with me, Erin. It's been great to talk to you.
You as well. Thanks so much for having me, Ian.
And then, as for me, listeners, you can reach me, as always, at fugaziA2Z@gmail.com. And you can join the Facebook group, The Alphabetical Fugazi. Let us know what you think about Badmouth. And then I hope you'll join me for the next episode when we will be discussing Bed for the Scraping. Until then, keep your eyes open.